Hey, everybody. So, hi. Hi, everyone. So we have a little icebreaker to start us off. Feel free to answer it in the chat. Amy and I are also going to share our slides and a little infographic we made to share with everyone in the chat box.
And we'll get started in just a second. We're just letting people in.
You feel okay. Oh.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for coming. Hi. If you're just joining us, we have a little prompt to get us started. And Amy and I will be sharing our slides and a little info we made with you.
Apply this to the next paper that I did with the points and rubrics I was using before.
Okay,
I still have rubrics, but there's no points attached to them.
Just a reminder to mute yourself.
Ilda and I and Amber feel like, you know, we had made so many changes.
I'm really glad we can hear the grading contract one because I didn't want to leave that presentation.
It was so good.
Yeah, so you could keep, whoever that was, you can keep playing it for me for now. Hey, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in a second. We have a little discussion prompt icebreaker to start us off. And Amy and I have a little infographic. Well, actually, we have 2 links to share with you for our slides and also an infographic we made. And we'll get started in just a little bit. Yeah, we are
like 30 seconds.
Yeah, like 30 seconds. We are recording this presentation in case you want to view it later on. And I'll just put those 2 URLs in the chat box again in case you didn't get them. Ooh, okay, I love seeing the chat. Glad. From Kim in business. I feel really glad for teaching online too. Sweet.
I love teaching online. George, are you liking teaching online? I think you must not.
So just so everybody knows, Amy and I actually live together. So we're in different rooms of our apartment.
So if you hear an echo, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready? Let's do this.
Okay, sweet. Okay. Are you admitting it? You're admitting everyone, right? Amy?
Everybody's coming in.
Yeah. Sweet. Whoa. Hey, I see Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Okay, Sarah, you want to take the first slide?
Hey, Kevin. Cool. Okay, hi, people. I'm still getting used to doing presentations on Zoom. Okay, hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to see you guys, even though it's virtually. So we have this little icebreaker we thought we'd start off with. How do you feel about working from home? Do you feel excited? Do you feel stressed? Tell us one word in the chat box, and please tell us your name and your department too. So we are recording this presentation in case you have to leave or you miss anything. And we also have some information to share with you, our slides, and also our URL. We're going to try to make this interactive so we can talk to each other. So we'll leave us unmuted unless it's too loud. Wait, I hear myself right now. That's funny. Okay. All right, so why don't we get started? So I'm seeing in the chat, challenged. You know, some people said happy, relieved, exhausted.
Hello.
Hi, Dad. Okay. Sorry, if anyone doesn't know, my dad actually worked for Anza for 40 years, and he's retired now, and he's at the presentation too. Hi, Dad.
Okay, Sarah, let's get going.
Let's get started. Okay, so here's our presentation, Am I a Robot? Humanizing the Virtual Campus. So I know some of us are really excited to be teaching online, like myself and Amy, but some of us might feel nervous and scared. And maybe we should mute people too, Amy.
Yeah, if you want to do it, Sarah, okay.
Okay, I can do it. Let's see.
Yeah. Got it.
Cool.
Mute yourself, Sarah.
Sorry. Okay, sweet. So we have a few questions. We'll try to make this interactive so we can talk, and we'll mute you if you have any questions or want to talk. Okay, so this is us. Just so you can see what we look like in pictures. Amy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Amy. I work in the English department. Sorry, I'm letting people in as well. We got really excited about this humanizing topic because we took a bunch of classes from @ONE. And if you guys haven't taken an @ONE class, I highly recommend that you guys do take an @ONE class, especially the humanizing class. It changed our life. It changed the way that we do things. And we wanted to share some of those things with you, not just for the classroom, but also for the campus, because we think that a lot of the things that you learn in the humanizing class about pedagogy or anagogy actually are really applicable to how we could change our campus and make it more friendly for everybody.
Yeah, and we're Amy and Sarah. We're both in English at Anza. So again, we'll be sharing the slides and a little infographic with you guys too. So just wanted to start with this question. Do you feel like a robot?
Yeah, especially teaching online. You might feel like a robot. So you might want to think about it. No, you feel free to put it in the chat. I love that, Byron. However, sometimes I have recognized myself that when I am writing emails to students or perhaps grading, I can become a little bit robotic. And what I mean by that is if I could somehow all of a sudden have predictive text basically saying what I would say normally, that's a bad thing. So what I try to do after thinking about these humanizing principles is to try to make sure that I'm always meeting people where they're at. For example, like one of the things that came up during COVID or recently during the smoke things is it's kind of weird to say, how are you? Hope you're having a great day, because that seems really odd and sort of tone deaf to what's going on. So instead, you kind of might want to say, how are you surviving? How are you getting through? And like authentically converse with people in your email, or if you're talking on Zoom, or if you're meeting them in your class announcements. You just want to make sure that you sort of have that human element that you include with it, so that you don't feel like a robot, or even worse, like a chat bot, which our students just absolutely hate.
Yeah, totally. So, oops, sorry. Okay. So just the basic premise of this presentation is that humanizing can lead to more authentic connections for staff, faculty, students, and administrators, and prevent us from feeling like we're robots and we're just sending, like Deborah said, the same emails over and over again, and there's not that human connection. All right, so we just thought we'd start off with the idea of what humanizing is. So humanizing, this is from this really cool article that came out, I forget when. So humanizing is a pedagogical strategy that seeks to improve equity gaps, clear practical teaching strategies for online instruction. And like Amy and I were both saying, we took a lot of the @ONE classes, and our favorites were the humanizing class and the equity class. They both really helped me revolutionize my teaching. But when we were thinking about this presentation, we thought they were so great because they're applicable to other areas too, not just the classroom, you know, our communities and our interactions with colleagues and staff as well. So there's some links to the article this is from below, and also this really cool infographic that Michelle Pacansky-Brock has on what humanizing is. And she talks about, what is it? Empathy, presence, and awareness, the key concepts of humanizing. So that's what we want to talk about with how we can do that in the virtual campus. So I have done surveys with my students for many years, but I decided to change up a survey I do with my students after taking the humanizing challenge from @ONE. So I used a getting to know you survey that they have, and I asked my students how they learn best. So here are just some of their responses, and that's from this quarter. a lot of it, the reason why I want to share this with you guys is because I know we're all not all instruction, is that I feel like it's applicable to us too, to our colleagues. What students say is really something that resonated with me too. So a lot of them said they learn well when the work is engaging or exciting, that they need a teacher who's involved in the class, not a hands-off teacher. They need a teacher who encourages the student to keep going, and interactive activities, visuals, work. And that was, again, something that resonated with me because I was like, yeah, as a teacher, you know, hearing from my dean or other people on campus, you know, getting that encouragement or having visuals from emails or other, you know, information really helps me. So we wanted to ask you guys, just to like bring this concept back to us, how do you think you work or learn best? And why don't you just tell us in the chat box? Use one word. Oh yeah, I see Laura is asking about the @ONE training. Yeah, I can send you a link to that. Kinesthetic, yeah, me too. Listening, visual, hands-on, yeah, for sure. Auditory, visual, interactively, yes, for sure. Critical thinking, interact, yeah, there's a lot of interaction that's really important. I agree, yeah. Hands-on, sweet. Short personal videos, me too, Byron, all the way. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny because sometimes I feel like we are like, I can't believe students can't pay attention to longer things, but I feel like that's true for me as well. I need short things. Okay, why don't we move on to the next one? Amy, take it away.
So we did a little bit of research looking at some recent surveys of workers, and this one came from Forbes magazine. It actually just came out on September 11th, and they were looking at the trend of working from home and how is that working for people as a sort of collective. And what's really interesting is that 50% of the people surveyed said that they prefer to have a combo of working from home and then also going back into the office. But 23% of people prefer working from home full time, and only 25 want to go back. What's really interesting, if you dig into this data and desegregate it a little bit, is that 96% of moms never want to go back. And that's a fascinating statistic as we sort of like look forward and where we're going with our campus and where we're going as far as how we could just create a more helpful community. Next slide, Sarah.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is how they work best online, and the things that people were finding out for workers online is that 48% said that it requires more focused thinking is easier. So any task that requires more focused thinking is much easier when they work from home. 44% find it easier to meet their deadlines, which I totally agree with. And 32% are having an easier time with work that requires creativity and innovation. That's also something that totally resonated with me. And I've seen across both Foothill and Anza's campuses, as we're all getting a lot more creative in how we're working with our students and how we're working with each other and how we're hiring. Like, I think that's just a fascinating way to go about it. And I think having that time and the space to be at home is a great thing for that. Next slide.
Yeah.
But there are struggles, and this is where I think humanizing really comes in and could be something that we could use as a campus, and that should be used across the campus to really help us combat these things. Work that requires collaboration is more difficult from home, so 47%. And I think that's partially because we're used to doing a lot of nonverbal or just verbal check-ins that we have across campus. We can't do those necessarily right away from when we're online. So we have to think about how to do that differently. 45% of people found it harder to build connections with coworkers, and that's where humanizing really should come in and be a part of any workplace, especially if you're going to have any remote working, because you have to build those connections in order for people to feel authentically connected to their community. And then 38% said there was an increased need for scheduling meetings. And I know we all feel like there's way too many meetings, especially at Foothill and Anza. But one of the things about it is maybe thinking about how we could humanize these meetings so that we enjoy them more, and also that we feel more productive in them. Because one of the things that can make meetings really drain us is when we're not feeling authentically engaged by the person who's presenting, or like what we're doing really matters. And so humanizing your meetings could really change the way in which you're connecting with your colleagues.
Yeah, okay. So, Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just doing the chat at the same time, and then I realized I'm sharing my screen. Sorry, I'm such a dork. Okay. Anyways, so the next slide we have is there's this really cool study that came out from that Canvas did with Hanover Research. So it was in June, and they looked at students' interest, well, a lot of different things, but one was student interest in online education and also the impact of COVID. So I wanted to bring it back to students because we are a community college district, but again, because I think some of these things are applicable to us as faculty, staff, and administrators too. So they surveyed 13 countries, and I think it was about 7,000 faculty, staff, students, and administrators. And one thing they found was 50% of students have a more positive opinion towards online learning. And then 50% of students' preference for online learning has increased after COVID-19. So I just wanted to bring that up because it shows that online learning is not something that's going away, that we're going to see an increase of it, and how do we work with it and how do we make it the best experience possible. All right, and I have a link. When you get our slides, you can find a link to the study below. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on this again because I thought it was something important we could think about in terms of better humanizing. So they have 6 key trends in online ed that they pointed out. The ones I really want to focus on were number 2, institutions need to think beyond the lecture. Number 3, faculty, staff, student engagement is critical. And number 4, online learning needs to be intentionally designed. So the idea is that we don't want to do robotic type of instruction or robotic type of connections with each other. Thinking beyond just traditional lectures or PowerPoints we're putting up in our classes, how do we engage each other? There's some other important things on here, like career readiness is a number 1 priority for students. Socioeconomic disparities impact engagement. And then the importance of equitable access. So a really key point of number 5, if you take the humanizing class, it's really, really awesome. They talk about how humanizing is that special connection that can help students from socioeconomic backgrounds have greater success, which can be a big problem in online.
Yeah, and I'm noticing Tony's asking some really great questions in there about how to humanize meetings.
Oh wait, I shouldn't look at the chat, sorry.
We do have a slide on that, so I'll definitely make sure we touch on that a little bit more. So humanizing connection, when you're thinking about humanizing connection in meetings, one of the things you want to think about is, what do you like in a meeting? Or what do you like in an engagement with a colleague? Or what do you like in your engagement with your students? One thing I always find that after I am thinking about this is I think about, what do I take away? And one of those things is you take away that personal connection. The people who I like working best with, it's because I like them as human beings. I feel seen, I feel heard. When I walk into a room with them, it's like a warm hug, or it's like an opportunity to like really engage in a synergistic way. When I go into a classroom, what makes one classroom different from another classroom is how that teacher engages with the students, how they show their personality and how they infuse themselves into that curriculum. And the same thing is true. There's certain people on campus who you want to go to for administration or finance help, or administrators you want to work with. And it's because of how they're meeting you and creating that human connection. So what we're trying to do is think about how we could do that in a virtual space. Next slide, sir. So one of the things that I think is really important when you start thinking about humanizing your virtual space is that you need to remember there's a difference between quality and quantity. All too often, we're thinking about things where we're like, quantity, send 1 million emails, that means I'm gonna get somebody's attention. Or send 1 million announcements to our students, that means I'm gonna get their attention. Well, actually, that's just the opposite. That's when people tune out. Adult learners work best and learn best in environments that give them a choice and shared community. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that you are listening to them, that you're hearing them, and that you're including them in the decision-making process. So if you send them a lot of things and it doesn't seem like you're incorporating any of that humanness into it, then what you end up doing is you just create a community that doesn't really listen or isn't really engaged in what you're doing. So you have to think about, like, how do I have those quality moments of engagement? Next slide, sir.
Sweet.
And one of those things that I think is really important to do, especially when you're in a virtual space, is survey, survey, survey. You have to get to know who you're working with. You have to get to know who is in your community and how to help them. So you can do this, like if you're in a classroom, you could do pre-course surveys, but if you're in a workplace, you can do climate surveys. You can do check-in surveys whenever you do an event. You can do reflection surveys at the end of an event. So you want to make sure that you're checking in with people. And I'll give you a little personal anecdote that happened to me. So I took a survey after I was taking the humanizing class and also the equity classes. I started incorporating in some changes into my student surveys to sort of ask who was in my class and see who my students were. What I found out is I had a high number of international students. That sent me over to the ISP office, which those guys are awesome, by the way, on both campuses. And they told me that I should start thinking about how I could change my office hours to meet the needs of students, because a lot of the students during COVID went home and now they're hours different from how we are. All of a sudden, when I did that, when I thought about how I could change my office hours to be at a time that was convenient for my community, of my students, I found out that everybody started showing up to my office hours. I went from having 0 people at my 9 a.m. office hours to having like 20 people at night, every office hour, and they were all coming in, and it became a lot more engaging for them. And it also then they would tell other people to come to my office hours, and everything was already booked at that point. So it was a great opportunity to sort of see how, if you just talk to people and you create a space for them to know what they want and what their needs are, then you can find out and go to the right people to get information on how you can better infuse your space to be a place that's useful for everybody. Yeah, it's being recorded, Jenny.
Yeah, so I think that like in the classroom, it's really important. It's something that I've started doing more. I mean, I used to do like before an essay because I'm an English teacher. Do you have any questions? Or when they turn in the essay, they turn in a reflection. But it's kind of scary asking for feedback too, and wanting to be honest and hearing what they say. I mean, likewise, I think on a campus level, we're getting, at least at Anza, surveyed more like, how did you like the opening day? What's working for you? And for me, as a faculty member, it makes me feel more heard. Like, oh, they care about, my opinion. And I think it would be a great thing to do, for department meetings or division meetings. Like, what are things you want to see? What are things that work for you? To get to that more of like authentic engagement or quality, like Amy was talking about earlier. Okay, let's go to the next one.
So there are ways for you guys to assess whether your humanizing is working. And that is what we always want to know. I know I'm a teacher. I'm always tweaking things. I want to make sure that what I'm doing is working. And so one easy way to do that is to look at your success and retention rates. So after I started incorporating some of the humanizing principles into my class, I started to see that my students were staying in class. They weren't dropping, and that they were also succeeding at a higher rate. But this can also work for across the campus too. And I want us to think about that when we're thinking about our meetings. I know like over at Foothill, they've done some really cool opportunities where they have like coffee break hour, or they have like a lunchtime hour. So one of the ways you can gauge whether those humanizing conferences are actually working is to see whether people are actually participating. Do people come? And when they come, do they actually talk to each other? That's a really cool way to gauge things. So for example, you'll notice that, like, I'll take the chancellor's office hours. People are engaged on that because they're talking on the chat box all the time. And
Yeah,
she
for
has
sure.
tons and tons of people who show up to that. Same thing is true if you have a division meeting. Do you have people who show up, and are they engaged? Because what you want to do is make sure that you're actually trying to reach the people who aren't talking. You need to find a way to get in touch with those people so that they feel more included in the space, so that they are able to actually enter in. And then you can get more people from across the campus or from across the department to actually want to come to those meetings. So chatting is a huge part of that. We call this also the water cooler effect. One of the things to think about with the water cooler effect is, do people come early to meetings so that they can talk to each other? Do they stay late? So maybe you want to leave the space open for them so that they can have that authentic communication that they're not able to have when they were in person. So in person, we could just hang out and talk outside of the room. But online, we have to think about how we can incorporate those spaces and ways for people to do that. And so leaving your chat room, or leaving your chat open, leaving your Zoom session open for a little bit of extra time after you leave, allowing people to have that space for authentic engagement, and also thinking about other ways to work with people. So For example, if you notice that Zoom's not working for people, maybe you survey them and find out if something else would. Maybe they want to use a Google document. Maybe they want to have some other way to have a chat. So try to think about like what authentic engagement could you do to really actually get people to come to those spaces. And so you can then assess that and see that the success might be going up in one of those ways.
Okay, sweet. All right, so let's get to the practical portion of this presentation. So just a few things that you can use.
Well, actually, 1 second. I did notice that Lisa had a really great point. Some people
Okay.
are introverted. Yes, that is totally true. Some people are more introverted and may not want to share. So I never ever force people to share. I do recognize that people don't always want to share. They don't want to be put on blast. I mean, I'm a very much a talking person, so I'm always going to jump in and talk. But not everybody is that way. And so I think one of the things to do is to also create a space that's going to be open for them. And so one of those things is to give them those surveys or those opportunities to reflect so you know if they like it. I mean, for example, one really interesting thing that I found out when I was talking to somebody over in student services at Foothill is that when they changed their morning coffee break time, half an hour, they were able to get more people to show up. Why was that? It was because everybody was working at the half an hour that they started and they didn't want to come late. So if they just moved it a half an hour, they were able to get more engagement. And then once they had that authentic engagement, they were able to actually get some talking going on about what was happening in their workspace. And they were also able to start troubleshooting things more. So again, it's one of those types of things where if you're introverted, I totally understand not wanting to speak up in one of these spaces, but you also still need to, when you're thinking about incorporating how you can engage everybody in the community, you have to find a way to survey them or get their opinions.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say, like, I was just pointing out myself because I'm an introvert. I'm a huge introvert. Actually, like, I do like teaching and talking with people, but like right now, this presentation, honestly, I'm like sweating. I'm like, God, it's so nerve-wracking. I thought it'd be easier on Zoom, but it's still scary to talk to people. So, I mean, I totally understand. I'm a huge introvert. And I think for me, what really works is anonymous surveys. I mean, there can be problems with them, but that's why I started doing anonymous surveys in my classes so that students could just feel like they could say what they wanted to without being judged, because I understand that feeling. And on the other hand, that's why I personally like really asynchronous teaching, because as an introvert, I don't know about anyone else, it takes me time to process what I want to say. And if I'm asked in a moment, you know, in a synchronous period, like in a meeting, okay, write down, say right now, I freeze up and I'm like, I don't know. So having an anonymous survey or an asynchronous, it makes me feel less judged and more comfortable, for sure, because I understand that feeling like an introvert.
Yeah, and Deborah makes a great point. There's also a cultural aspect to it too, which is why it's a good idea to have an anonymous survey. Some people may not want to share it in front of everybody. That might be a cultural difference as well.
Yeah.
And then Ben's making a really good point about templates for surveys. So we'll be happy to. I have a participant list. I'll send out our surveys. I didn't realize everybody would want surveys, but I will definitely send out surveys and copies of surveys for all of you guys.
But I just have to give a shout out to the Humanizing Challenge. If you go to @1, they have it archived. And I had an old survey I was using, and I used the one that they suggested, that Michelle Pacansky-Brock suggested, that you can find in Canvas Commons. I think there's a video, and they like walk you through how to use it. And that's one I used, and I added in a few other things, but and Amy like changed it too and did some different things. That one's a really great one to use too.
Thanks, Michelle, for putting it in the chat. Yeah. And thank you, Autumn, for putting it in the chat too.
That one's a really awesome one.
Yeah, it is. That's an easy one to just adapt. I mean, I've made mine a little bit different because I wanted to find out certain data points, but I do think that survey is a great place to start. Okay, Sarah, next slide.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Also, I have to apologize for talking really quickly. I know I'm doing that. I'm sorry. It's because I'm kind of nervous, but I'm going to talk slower. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay. I don't really talk slowly, so I'm sorry about that, but I will So one of the things that I actually wanted to do and to add in across the campus, and I think this is something you can do with students, but it really honestly improves our work life too. You need to add in tone online. Did you know that online, anything you write to somebody else will be taken in a negative tone? It's kind of crazy. So we have to find ways to really make sure that we are creating a space where we can make the tone known of what we're talking about so we don't sound like a jerk. So what you want to do is
Oh,
think about maybe you can include an emoji. An emoji is a great way to do that. It's a very simple, easy thing. I know people from faculty, staff, and administrators that do that. And when I've started seeing that, it's great. I mean, sometimes I'm like
Oh, oops, sorry.
I'm on a hiring committee and the person
Sorry about
sends me
that.
something with an emoji, then I'm like, oh, cool. I know what you're talking about. I don't feel like, oh my God, the person's being evil. But instead I have that like personal connection. I'm like, oh, get that to me now. And it's like a smiley face. It makes me more apt to do that. Same thing is true with like the like button. I don't know if you guys know this about our email, but we could just click like on a message. It's a way to show people that you read something and you know you don't need to reply right now, but you want people to know that it's present. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And then also, and that's a great tip too, Michelle, thanks for sharing that one. I use emojis on the classroom sites as well. So if you're a teacher, you can definitely use emojis there. You can also include a like button on your assignments. If you're doing anything with student services online, you can also include a like button as well. Sarah's gone so far as to put emojis like on every single assignment. So she has an emoji key for students, and that's kind of an interesting thing to do as well.
Well, I do. Yeah. So if you know anything about me, okay, if you don't know, I try something and then I go overboard with it sometimes. So before I was like, I don't want to use emojis. It seems so like immature. And then Amy converted me and I was like, this is so great. Yeah, students, can better get my feedback or know that I'm being friendly. And so I just incorporate them all the time. And like in, modules, like if something's a reading, I put a stack of books next to it. And
yes, and I see Laura Chin mentioning Bitmojis. I'm not a Bitmoji person. I prefer pictures, but I know some people are Bitmoji people, and that's a great way to go. You
yeah,
have to be authentic in who you are. If you
totally,
love emojis,
totally.
go Bitmoji. If you love emojis, go emoji. And if you like pictures, go pictures. I do
Yeah.
recommend GIFs. I know everybody, sorry for those of you guys who say GIFs, I'll say GIFs. I know that.
I say gifts too.
But if you want to really get in with your students, it's try sharing those. Actually, I use Giphy all the time on my assignments. It's one of the things I do for quizzes, or if I send out an announcement, or if I'm even working with coworkers from time to time and I know them pretty well, like on a hiring committee, I'll send a GIF back and forth to people. It really helps you sort of create that sort of space where you can express a feeling or an affect. And then you can sort of have that shared connection because they can see what you're feeling and it's moving and it has a little bit more humanity to it too. So I think it's a great thing to incorporate in both like our workplace, but also to incorporate with students. So those are some things that you can definitely do to add tone online.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great ones. Thanks, Amy. Okay. So I just mentioned that sometimes I am resistant to something and then I fully embrace it. So this is one of those things is I've gotten really into in the past year. This is something else I learned from @ONE. I learned so many things, but creating banners from something called, there's a lot of services. One of them is Canva. You can do free images, and on our infograph, we mention it. But it's a great way to add personality, theme, visuals that a lot of students love, but we said we love too. So these are some of the banners that we have. This one with the robots is Amy's, and the two on the other side are mine. So we have 2 orange cats. So I started doing, because I'm a cat lady, I started putting little orange cats on all of my banners. I also made my 1A, tried to have a community board type of look. So I made it like brick wall with spray paint, or a wooden wall with like a message taped on it. You can go crazy. There's a lot of different things you can do. You could have like whatever type of, if your class has a theme, like Amy's has a robotics or AI theme, you can make all the banners related to that. And I know some people are really good at it, have a graphic design eye, and some people don't. And Canva is really easy to use. They have some pre-made templates that you can use too, where you can just type in your class and download them. And it looks daunting, but it's super easy to do.
And
a
I'm
great
gonna
personal touch. Yeah.
And I'm going to really pitch doing this actually, because again, you want to think about creating that online environment. You want to create your own community space. So when we walk into somebody's Canvas shell, they shouldn't all look the same. We want our Canvas shells, if we're teaching, to be a place where students can see a personality. They can sense a sort of a theme or a community space that's being created there. And so we do that in our in-person classes a lot of times by adding in that personal touch, or the way maybe we talk to people, or how we greet people, or maybe what we do in our daily classroom management agenda. But what you really need to think about is, how do you do that online? And these graphics are a way to do that. Now, if you are also thinking about a workspace, or if you're in a department or a division, you want to think about doing this too. I mean, because you can create spaces for both students, faculty, and staff, where you're creating that environment. So when they log on to the page, or when they see the work that you guys are going to be doing, or if you guys are sharing documents, you guys can create a theme that's really going to represent who you are in an online space, so that they can know, oh, this person's like this, there's a community space there. So, or the equity office looks like this, or this is how we're doing this particular thing. And so you want to think about, like, how do we design around that to show a visual representation of our environment, and how we're customizing that to be unique.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think a good example of that is Amy right now. She has her Zoom background, which, if you don't know, that's Spider-Man. So like Canva, for instance, you can create your own Zoom backgrounds. There's a lot of different tools. That's a great way to do it. Another thing is like, we have our cute mascots now. The Anza has a new one. And I know Foothill was way ahead of us. They already had a cute one. But things like that add a lot of personality and comfort, right? And thinking about, like, how do we do that on our websites or web pages, not just for classrooms, but other spaces to feel welcoming.
And also important too, especially with this generation, because it's all about the branding. Remember, our younger generation of employees and students, they're much better at branding. They've grown up sort of thinking about their brand and understanding what that is. And so we want to think about these images as a way to create a brand that we can then share across a community authentically.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, sir.
Okay, let's do this. All right. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay. So meetings, this is exactly what Tony was talking about. So what I would think about is right here with meetings and conferences, you want to think about your backgrounds. So you can have different backgrounds, and that's a great way to do it. You could definitely also think about how you could create team backgrounds. So if you're doing a hiring interview, or if you guys are doing a Zoom conference, or if you guys are doing an event, you guys could all have the same backgrounds. Same thing, if you notice that that's been something the district's been creating for us, I thought that was a great idea as well. The next thing you guys also can think about is if you guys are holding regular meetings, so whether they're meetings for like your staff, or whether they're meetings with interns, or whether they're meetings with administrators, or they're meetings with students, you want to think about maybe having themes, something that's going to allow people to bring a little bit of their humanity into that meeting space. I know Twee on her office hours has tried this out, and I actually thought it was a really great idea, which is like, bring your pet, bring your team.
Yeah.
Bring your favorite movie, bring a vacation spot, share those types of things. Anything that allows people to start having that connected space, so that they feel more comfortable sharing things, so that they feel more comfortable sharing their ideas, and that we can kind of overcome the fact that we're all staring at a camera. So you have to sort of create that community space where we can feel like we're doing something together. That water cooler effect thing I was also talking about, I really do recommend that you take a little bit of time at your meeting, either before the meeting starts, like open your Zoom up early or whatever you're using, or let it stay a little bit later, so that you can have that authentic chats. One of the things I always do, because I do EO work, or when I'm doing any other type of work with students, one of the things I do is I come in a little bit early and I ask some questions about people. So I'll be like, how's your day? How are things going? We'll talk a little bit. I leave that space in whatever sort of conference I'm doing with people so that we can make that connection. Because in meetings, if you just go with the meeting agenda, you might get through all of your material, but you also might have a room of people who hate you. So what you want to do is think about, like, how can I create a room that's building a community where everybody feels included, they feel seen, and they also feel like they have an opportunity to speak. Because the more that they feel engaged and like you're thinking about them and you're noticing them, then the more that you can also think about how they're going to be able to partake in that community discussion.
Yeah, and just a few examples to add in with that too. I know Heidi King at Anza, she's in our distance education office, and also is the classified Senate president. She always does cool backgrounds. Like I think at one chancellor's office hour, or maybe president's office hour, she had a Brady Bunch background. And she also had one, was it last week? I forget when. Recently, that was like a thank God it's Friday or something. So it's a nice way to add in some personality or fun. If anyone knows Chessa Kaparis in English and Asian American Studies, she was telling me that for her Asian American Lit class, she'll put a background from a movie or somewhere and have her students guess what it is as a way of building connections. And I thought that was a really awesome idea for something to do.
And just as a pause really quickly, because I saw a couple of things coming up in the chat. Michelle's totally right. You could use Zoom video filters. That's a great way to change things up. That's actually kind of fun to do, and try that out. I also saw from I think it was Ben, he was asking for how to customize your Canvas page. You can go under edit, and then it depends on how much you want to customize. You could add in images from or buttons that you've created on Canva or other services, and you can do that by inserting a picture. Or you guys could also go crazy if you know HTML and start doing HTML stuff with that as well. So it kind of depends on your level. But if you want to message me afterwards, Ben A, I'd be more than happy to give you a couple tips.
Yeah, so like on the previous slide, well, I know we have to move on, but a lot of that is images that are clickable links.
Yeah, we create a lot of buttons in our class.
Yeah. Okay, let's go on to the next one, videos. So this is something, I'm an introvert. I was very resistant to making videos. I was very afraid to do this. And I used to make just a couple of videos for my students. And I do like 50 takes, and it was just something I was like, this doesn't work for me. I'm just not that type of person. I'll put in videos from like someone else talking from YouTube, but not me. And when I took the humanizing class, we had to do videos. And so that was a great way to have me jump in and be more comfortable, and also realize you don't have to be perfect in videos. So you can use videos to welcome a class, and it creates a nice personal connection where people can see who you are. But I know on both campuses, there's lots of great videos now for registration, the library, financial aid. And again, it's a great thing you see a person, it's not just like you're reading it, someone's there to help you. So Amy and I have 2 examples of videos we've created.
But one
welcome
of the things,
class videos. Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
No, but one of the things I was going to say is, while these are class videos, we're going to leave them on the slides for you so you guys could click them later on. But what I want you to think about is like, how could you create this in your own space? So for example, let's say you're in the equity office or the online office. How could you create a little thing so that people would know who you are? Especially now that we're only interacting online. Maybe we have a web page where somebody has an introduction, like, and how they help you. Or maybe they have a little web page about like what they're, and they have a video showing like, how do you do things? Like, for example, a navigation video. So there's different ways you guys could do that. Or you could also create a preview for your service too. That would be a really cool thing that you guys could do that's like less than a minute, that would show students what you're doing and how they can do the service.
So like, and cool things are like Amy's video right here is really cool because she does a monsters themed e-writ too. So she has a dinosaur in the background. I'm like the book nerd, so I'm in front, like I'm always filming the bookcase behind me. But like in terms of non-class things, like Amy was saying, you can do things like, I was thinking about, I'm on the curriculum committee, doing just a really short video about due dates to have along with the just written explanation. I thought
Yeah.
that might be more interesting too.
Exactly. And Anna was asking about Studio. Studio is a great option for just loading up or creating a video right away. What's nice about Studio is that you can just shoot right in Studio and then do the captioning right there and then be able to link it for your students. I think Studio is a great option. It's also a wonderful option if you happen to know that you have ISP students or international students in your class, because YouTube is not accessible for international students or anybody outside of the country. As are a lot of other services that are very common for video hosting. But if you use Studio, it will be accessible for them. And so if you know you're creating your videos there, you'll make sure you'll have that access issue for everybody, and everybody will be able to get it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's go to the next one.
So these are a couple other ones that we wanted to mention that you guys could do. I kind of mentioned one already, which is an explainer. An explainer is a type of video that you can do where you're not necessarily in the video. You're sort of showing pictures. It's often created with Adobe Spark or Pontoon, right? Powtoon. Yeah, and some of the other, there's a bunch of services out there.
Animoto.
Animoto.
The easiest one I found is Adobe Spark,
which is free for our district.
Yeah, so you just sign in with your district email. It's so user-friendly.
Yeah, I would say that's so easy to do. If you don't like making videos, it's so easy to do it on that.
And you don't have to show your face or anything. Like, there's a way just to make it's basically like an animated presentation.
Yeah. Then you could also try digital postcards. So this is actually a thing you could definitely use if you're in a space where you're working with students, but it's also really applicable to work life. So I learned about digital postcards when we were taking the equity class through @ONE, and I started incorporating them into my class. So like every week I make a little 10-second video where I say hi, and I ask my students what they're doing for the weekend. And then I drop that in there, and then I say, if you want to respond back with a picture or a video of your own of what you did this weekend, then they respond back to my message. And so that's been a nice way to sort of create some community and do something I would normally do in class where I would ask what their weekend was like. But you could totally do this with your team at work. Have everybody create a little video and share it back and forth. I mean, you can do it on your phone. You could easily do it. You could just take a picture of your weekend. That's another thing you guys could do. So your digital postcard doesn't necessarily have to be a video. It could just be a picture that everybody shares on the team so that they have a little bit more community going back and forth between each other.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you guys can think about is screencasts. So one thing I will say about screencasts is they're super useful because they help you navigate details. But again, keep them short. And that's my big problem with that is often when I go into a screencast, it won't be less than 3 minutes and students will tune out if it is not less than 3 minutes. Same is true actually for us faculty and staff. I think our tolerance for a long video is even shorter than students. I think about a minute. So just kind of.
Well, we're so overloaded with so much work, right? Our heads.
We're like, yeah, I'm never going to do that.
Yeah, you need something quick. Yeah. Okay. So we I think this is the last tool we have, or we have a couple more. We wanted to talk a little bit about asynchronous discussion and just to hit on again, well, if you are an introvert, but not even just that, if you're really busy. So I guess I should explain, like, asynchronous is when you don't do things in real time, and synchronous is when you do them in real time. So there are some, I love synchronous discussion. It's a really great way to quickly bounce off ideas, but I think asynchronous is helpful, not just for asynchronous online classes, but for those of us who are introverts or need some more time to digest or process what we're thinking. So you can do online surveys and things, but if you want to have it back and forth, you can use things like discussion boards. Flipgrid is a great one that I've just learned about. I know Foothill has some other ones, like VoiceThread. We don't have that at Anza, unfortunately, but maybe we will someday. But Flipgrid's really cool. You can have a topic and students will record a short video in response to it, and then they can do video responses to each other. So it's very fun. And I have an example right here in the corner of an icebreaker I did. So I just decided to do it this year, try videos. And Flipgrid is cool because they started doing captioning, so it's more accessible for everyone. Yeah, it's fun. Try it out. You can integrate it into Canvas. Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry,
I
I'm
saw
just talking now.
Byron was asking about Flipgrid, and I was going to tell him Flipgrid. What's nice about it on both campuses now is that you can just choose it as an app for your Canvas class if you're using it with students, and have it right there, and then they can see it. Because I know sometimes when we were linking to it before, there might be some issues with people accessing it. Another thing about Flipgrid, though, I did want to point out is Flipgrid would be an awesome tool for us all to use across campus when we have a team and we're discussing something and we can't all meet at the same time. So maybe what we could have is somebody starts a video right there, like the leader of your team or the leader of your department, and you go back and forth sharing ideas that way. That way, if we can't all get in the room together, we can still hear each other's ideas. And it becomes a way for us to share that. And one of the cool things about Flipgrid now is that you can actually create a complete and total what's known as like a mixtape. So everybody who went on the Flipgrid and contributed, you can create a full video so that everybody can watch what they said, which is kind of cool. So if you were using this as a work tool, so that you guys were bouncing ideas off of each other, you'd be able to create a timeline of what everybody's ideas were and then pull them out and share that with everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So here are a whole bunch of tips we came up with.
Yeah, that we pretty much just took from the @ONE people. So if you would like to know more about these things, we highly recommend the @ONE people and taking some of their classes, because they will change your life, even if you're not working with students. I really honestly think that it's the best thing. Oh, liquid syllabus, Byron. A liquid syllabus.
That's a really good question.
Is the best thing ever. Oh my God. Sarah took the class over the summer, and I'd taken the equity class before where they teach you how to do a liquid syllabus. And I was so resistant. I was so like scared to do it. But after watching Sarah do it, I was like, okay, I'll take the plunge. And students love it. It's a digital online version of your syllabus, so that students can access all of your policies on a Google site or whatever site you want to use. And then they can take it anywhere with them, and it's mobile friendly. What's great about that is that having that mobile friendly thing for students, people are able to just walk around and access the syllabus when they need it. Whereas if it's a PDF, they're not going to look at it. And even if it's on Canvas, they're probably not going to look at it, but they'll be able to pull it up on their phone really easily when it's mobile friendly. And that's something that's been a huge thing for students. They love it. And
it's really visual. It's so cool.
And you can embed videos, so you have your navigation video or a preview of your class. And it also just creates an online presence for you so that students can search you up. One other thing I could say about liquid syllabi is it's a really good idea to do something like that if you're in a program. So even if you're not working with students one-on-one in a classroom setting, you guys could create like liquid documents. So things that people could travel back and forth so they can view them on their mobile. Our website is nice, but some of the documents that we have on there are a little bit difficult to read for students, and they're really honestly too long. So students are going to be apt to say something like, too long, didn't read. So if we can create a more visual experience for them, or a more living document by creating sort of liquid documents for students or for any of our programs, that would be awesome. Because the more we can sort of engage people in a mobile friendly environment as we're going forward, whether it's our colleagues or whether it's students, that's going to be something that's going to help us out.
Yeah, for sure. Sweet. Thanks, Amy. So I just shared in the chat our slides and also a little infograph we made, so you can access those. So that's our presentation. We'll just open it up to any questions that you guys might have.
Feel free to unmute. Yeah, because we have a couple minutes left. If you guys.
Yeah, let me see. Should I unmute them?
So they can unmute themselves.
Okay, they can. They can't do this. I know Zoom. Okay, I don't know.
Coffee breaks online. So coffee break online, that's a great question. So one of the things that I actually learned about this from Foothill, I have to credit Lori Scolari for trying this out over in some of her teams over there. She had little Zoom coffee break time that she set up where people could just come in and talk. She left the room open. Sometimes she was there, sometimes she wasn't, but she left it open and she put it on people's calendars so that they could talk to each other. I thought it was a great idea. And I really appreciated the fact that it was valuing that space where normally we would chat with each other and giving people an opportunity to do that. And by putting it on your Outlook calendar, it becomes a place where everybody can sort of like talk to each other and they know that time's always going to be there. Anything else you guys have questions about? Are there any other trainings like Adobe Spark, Studio, Flipgrid? There's a lot of stuff out there. I mean, if you are honestly wanting to get into video, I would probably recommend thinking about Screencast-O-Matic or Camtasia, because you're going to be able to customize your things a lot better that way. You're also going to be able to add more personality in if you're using one of those tools. They are a little bit more tricky, so you give yourself some time and space to do that. What's nice about Screencast-O-Matic and also Camtasia is they have a little
Camtasia is good. Yeah,
video tutorial for how to do it. And that's
that's a really good question, Tony. We should totally have some more trainings on those things. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
Okay, let's see. Oh, Anza has a coffee break from the professional development office. Sweet, sweet.
Oh, awesome. I hope they put it on all of our calendars.
Oh, Heidi King is doing that too. Okay, awesome. Heidi's awesome. Thanks for coming. Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah. Thank you for mentioning that, Jamie, recording videos using Zoom. Yeah, that's one thing we mentioned on the infographic. And you're totally right, Jamie, recording using Zoom. I actually haven't tried that yet, but Amy does that all the time. She loves it.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. It's very easy. And then what's nice about that is you can keep your background so you can have a consistent presence that way. So that's one of the nice things that you can do to really make sure that you're sort of creating that brand.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming.
Question? Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, I'm interested. I love what you're talking about. There's so many great tools you're mentioning. Could you talk more about that class, the one you took? I know, like you mentioned, all the different tools, but is there somebody that can talk specifically to that 4-week class? I think it is.
Is Michelle or Autumn still on here? I could let them talk about it. They created it. They're awesome. Feel free to unmute if you're still here. They might not be.
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, it's Michelle.
Hi.
So the 4-week course, the 4-week humanizing course, is a great opportunity to get oriented with some of the research that underpins the fantastic presentation that Amy and Sarah has just provided, but also you'll get hands-on use with Adobe Spark, and you'll also learn how to record videos on your phone, upload them to YouTube, edit the captions there, and embed them in Canvas. Our 4-week equity course goes a bit deeper into some of the principles behind equity, and also one of the outcomes of that course, you'll have the opportunity to create a liquid syllabus.
Yeah, and that's an awesome class. It really helped me revise my syllabus, the language of it, so it's more equitable. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, the equity class and the humanizing class are amazing. They totally changed the way I teach. So I have to give massive props to you guys for creating them.
Yeah.
If I could say one more thing, we still have some courses for fall that have room in them. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you're interested in checking them out and registering, you can just click on that link.
Yeah, they're super awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the @ONE classes do have you do homework, but it's all practical work that you would use in your class. So you work on a Canvas shell and you put together like discussions or videos that you could use. It's all stuff you're going to use. It's really cool. Yeah. You can totally, well, Laura, I don't really know you, but I think you could totally do it with your workload. Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Aw, thanks. Thanks. It's nice to meet you guys.
Great to have you guys here. We really enjoyed presenting for you guys. I will have a list out to you guys so that I can also send out some of that research that you guys were wanting. So feel free to also email us. So I'll put my message out there, my email, so in case you guys want to reach out directly.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, and the survey too, yeah.
Yes, send the surveys to you guys.
Thank you. Oh, thanks everyone for coming. You guys are great.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for coming. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. That was awesome. Okay. Have a good one. Have a great weekend. Okay.
Hey, Amy.
Hey, Ben. How are you?
I'm doing actually really good. How are you doing?
How's the baby?
He's great. He's crawling around on the floor.
That's
more
awesome.
like
Yeah, the army crawl. I know, my nephew's about that age too, and he's doing the same thing. He just stood today for all by himself, so.
Oh, that's exciting.
It is. I got the picture. I was like, it's so cool.
It's more of a handful once that happens, though.
Oh yeah. His big sister's
True
gonna have to
story.
be chasing after him.
Yeah.
Um,
He already wants to eat checkers, so
Yeah, that's true.
like the checker pieces.
no.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
What's up, Ben?
I wanted to ask, like, so I think I was assuming that there was like some like really complicated, sophisticated way to customize the Canvas shell, but is it almost like you have like the home page and you're just clicking edit and then?
Yes, exactly. So just make like an image in Canva or whatever, and then you just click edit and upload it.
Yeah, 'cause
And
what I was doing is like my home page for the class is just the modules.
Yeah. So go instead and create a page. So you know how you can create a page and then you can make
Oh,
that
yeah.
your make that your home page. So when you create a page, you can then click make home page, and then that way that'll show up for students all the time. And so what I tend to do is I now have two. I have one for the first 2 weeks, and then I change it up so it's just a little bit less information after that. But it has the buttons on it so they can click those, and then it has like a banner so that they constantly sort of have that brand on it.
Nice. Okay.
And then just remember, one thing I would say to do is if you're going to use pictures and buttons a lot, make sure that you're using the alt text feature too,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that people who have screen readers can see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, cool. Thank you. That's really clear.
Of course. Have a great day,
Sweet.
man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, this was great.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was good to meet you too. Bye.
Bye.
Any other questions? Okay, should I close it up?
Yeah, you recorded everything. Everything's good.
Yeah, I have to stop the recording.
You have to
Okay,
stop the recording
bye-bye.
and leave.
And leave. Stop
And
recording.
download your